So how many of you here have used chatbots before? How many of you keep using it over and over again, not just once? Less fingers, okay. So I'm going to specifically dive into a case study today on chatbots, but before we go there, let me give you a little bit of a background about banking and our history and where actually AI comes into effect. So, did you have this? Oh, sorry, it's over there, sorry, okay. So if we go into our history, so we kicked off, some of you may or may not know, 2,000 years ago, that's when the first financial product came into existence with the Babylonians, where actually merchants extended grain loans to farmers and traders for carrying goods from one city to another. We then saw the first bank ever coming into effect in Italy, in the beautiful city of Florence. It was called the Medici Bank, and they had time deposits, demand deposits. Then, with the emergence of the internet and World Wide Web, essentially coming up, we saw as ahead of that, and that was very surprising to me when I joined Barclays, which is ATMs and credit cards were actually innovated by Barclays, leading to the first instance of online banking. Now, it was not online banking as we know it. It was your TV set connected to your telephone for making payments and transferring money. I don't think anybody probably in this room ever used that service, but that was actually Bank of Scotland. Now, going into SMS banking, that's when your mobile phones actually got really, really hot and became part of your daily lives, where it started kicking off a lot of generic services in banking. However, very surprisingly, AI had its first instance in the 1980s with Citibank launching expert systems to automate internal decision-making processes, and it keeps evolving since then. So that was the early days of AI. Very, very focused on back end, back office operations. Now, let's fast forward to our industry today. Let's just pick one profile. This guy, Nikhil, he's 25 years old. He's millennial, working professional, very generic profile everywhere in the world. Typical banking customer coming as a new population. And if we just pick one example of, and you all may be hopefully, familiar with that, seeking investment advice, showing how AI can essentially completely change the interface you're familiar with and democratize investments for everybody. So as you know, in the good old days, or even still to this day with your boutique investor, whoever, you sit down face to face, talk about your family situation, and decide which portfolio makes sense based on your risk scoring. Now, that physical experience can essentially also get carried over into telephony, and that's where we saw either complementary or side-by-side experiences. Now what we're essentially seeing is the human element is going to be replaced by an AI brain, which is quite scary. But it's already happening. In the United Kingdom, Nutmeg, which is an online service, which has democratized investments, does exactly that everybody can start opening their own investment portfolio, no matter how old you are and what your threshold is. And that carries over to Wealthfront now, also mobile devices. So what have we done in Africa to actually, for us, show that the next generation of AI can actually make a difference and bring business benefits? So the case study that we kicked off last year was around onboarded customers. For us, signing you up as a new customer is a huge cost. The acquisition cost for banks to this day is very high because of all the documents we have to validate for you to provide all your KYC information. And what we see is only 68% of those onboarded customers become activated. And activations for us means you start transacting on your account, taking on other products, responding to marketing comms, servicing, text messages we send you. So we said if we want to actually find new ways to really deeply and more organically, naturally engage with our millennials, we gotta go after messenger channels, because these guys are left and right on Messenger all day, even more time spent on those channels than with their own friends and families. So what we've done here is we essentially married TensorFlow deep learning packages in Python, stored the conversations in Facebook Messenger on MongoDB, and stored all the packages and instances on our AWS with Elasticsearch indexing data real time. And voila, you have the very cute bank bot that we launched last year in June in our Facebook Messenger to see what's the difference. And it was for selected product groups, so gold value bundle customers, free student accounts, where we essentially wanted to show to them how can you, when you walk through a door and become a customer, find out more about us in a very natural, conversational way. And that way, figure out whether rewards is something that you may want to sign up for, savings accounts are the right thing. So this was the good old days, and it's not that old, by the way, 2-3 years ago, where you jumped online and browsed up and down, left and right to figure out what's the right thing for me after you join our bank. And by the way, our site is very new. It was not as pretty and fancy about 2 years ago. And essentially, we replaced this with this, where now we send an SMS with a link to our bank bot, and users jump on and start figuring out, oh my gosh, my bank has so much more to offer to me. And guess what? Because they're young and millennials, they love stupid conversations as well. They talk about all kinds of stuff. And you're going to get a little bit of glimpse of what the type of questions they even ask. Are you human? They say, I'm tired, I'm in love. It's really funny. And to this day, the way AI works or chatbot technology, you have to still write these scripts. You have to constantly still, hire content writers to write this, but then based on the models that you have, the precision in providing answers to certain questions and statements gets just better and better and better. So the benefits, the 68% that I mentioned went up to 73%, and this was built with less than $5,000, by the way. So it was not expensive to build. And amongst all the people thousands of customers went out to, or new customers went out to, 20% of them clicked on that SMS link to go and access the bank bot, and 45% came back. Now, when I asked the question here in the room, who actually kept going back and reusing the chatbots, half of the hands went down. This is really awesome, because it does not only gives you answers for relevant, queries and questions that you have, but we also connect real time to agents once there is an opportunity to sell further products. So where is this headed? So chatbots, are going to become voice-based. I'm a little bit scared of that, because I think it's a different thing when you type and interact with a chatbot rather than hearing an automated voice, because that brings that telephony experience again into the game. What we see is also providers or startups such as GovShop, which is huge in India, also kicking off in America big time, bringing interbot solutions, which is bot-to-bot interactions. Because guess what? The ecosystems are merging soon enough. You want to figure out pricing, about travels, and the last thing we would want is for users to jump again from bot to bot to bot. So it's really progressive, but in the next 2 to 3 years, we're talking about interbot. And for us in banking, this is not the end of it. It only keeps getting more and more intelligent and predictive across all kinds of services. Robo Advisors, many of you have heard the term, is going to do exactly what I talked about in real deep sales conversations around all kinds of investment products, insurance products, mortgage products, in the moment, in the right time. You're looking at intelligent wallets where we are really merging. Already it's happening. Our data with telecoms data, retailer data, to really come after you in the right moment, in the right brick and mortar store with the right offer, and being predictive about that. We're defining personalization with new medical data from Internet of Things, all devices you're carrying in your life, to make our pricing a lot more tailored. Because the pricing for vehicle insurance that a 22-year-old should get is very different than a 35-year-old, as you know, or sort of a 45-year-old. So we are marrying our, again, data with all kinds of other providers. There are data partnerships happening behind the scenes. And then last but not least, how do you address identity, right? And safety and fraud. And this is where newest technologies such as blockchain are really going to come and find their Uber moment. And we're going to essentially get to the moment where we're saying Albert Einstein walking into the room and saying technology is going to exit humanity, which is scary.
Thank you, Yoshi.